Democrats panic as nearly 22% of black voters are abandoning the party, many of whom are jumping ship to Donald Trump. What are they going to do?
Let's get ready to rumble! You can't handle the truth.
Hi, I'm Pastor Marty. This is the Afternoon Drive. Thank you so much for joining us. Make sure you are a subscriber to the channel. Once you are, smack the bell, click the word all. That gives you notification of my rants, my ravings, and yes, my undeniably flawless reasonings. Hey, thank you so much for watching. Please like and share this video. That's how we get the word out that we're here. And remember, what I say could make you mad, and I don't care as long as I make you think. Welcome to the podcast for thinking people. Last week, of course, Team Biden got the horrific news, courtesy of the New York Times, that in 6 swing states that Joe Biden won in 2020, he is now officially losing in 5. And in those 5 states, he depended heavily on, you guessed it, the minority vote. And this time, he doesn't have it. It isn't just the 22% now, but there are more black voters leaving the party literally every day. So what are they going to do? Now I want you to hold on to that thought for a moment, because in just a moment, I'm going to show you an interesting interview that Kim Iverson did with one of the founding leaders of BLM. You remember BLM, don't you? Let me take you back a couple of years. George Floyd, the summer of 2020, and we were under lockdown, but yet there were protests in streets. There were literally police stations on fire. There was all kinds of rioting taking place, mostly peaceful, according to CNN, despite the burning buildings in the background. And a lot of that centered around BLM, Black Lives Matter. And of course, we were told incessantly by the lying legacy corporate corrupt mainstream media that this was all Donald Trump's fault. And of course, the Democrats were encouraging this, egging it on, and they wanted to defund the police. Remember that? Then they got control of things, and all of a sudden, they don't want to defund the police anymore. They want to turn the entire country into a police state where they literally do 24/7 surveillance on all of us all of the time, right down to that's why they want cash money to go away and everything to be digital. They want to know what you are spending your money on and where. That's in reality what the Democrats are. And I have been saying for years to my black friends, the real slave masters of the 21st century are not the conservatives. Your real enemy are not Republicans. It's the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party has its roots in what we call the Dixiecrats. You know, following the Civil War, Reconstruction, they created the Ku Klux Klan to make sure that these freed slaves stayed in line, which was code for stay away from white women and don't think you're ever going to be equal in this society. That was courtesy of the Democratic Party. So this tying of white supremacy and all things to just the conservatives and the Republicans, may I remind you that despite the fact Lyndon Baines Johnson, who happened to be, quote, a Democrat, that civil rights was passed on his watch, not willingly, he did it begrudgingly because he needed the political clout of black America. He didn't get the votes he needed to get the civil rights bill passed because the Dixiecrats, that's right, the Democrats, refused to vote for civil rights. Republicans voted en masse for civil rights. You have civil rights because of, yes, the Republican Party. And I have said before that racism in and of itself really has its roots in secularism. It was Charles Darwin talking about survival of the fittest, talking about some races being more advanced, developed than others. He talked about races who were not fully evolved. They were of darker skin complexion. You see, all that's been purged out of the modern texts written by Charles Darwin, the father of all things evolution. From that, we got eugenics and Margaret Sanger, who wanted to rid the world of what she referred to as human weeds, these races that weren't fully evolved and lived literally like savages. And Margaret Sanger was a rank racist and the founder of Planned Parenthood. Ever wonder why Democrats push things like abortion on demand right up to the moment of birth, everywhere, all the time, and yet 8 out of 10 abortion clinics are always conveniently located in minority neighborhoods? Well, guess what? One of the founding members of BLM has put all that together and figured it out too, and he's had it. He's done. And he wants Donald Trump. And in just a moment, I'm going to show you that interview that he did with Kim Iverson. But let's continue to discuss, shall we, for just a moment. Let's continue to take this stroll a little bit. I've said it before and I will say it again. The Democrats are the plantation masters of the 21st century. They are constantly pushing what they call critical race theory and that we've got to have safe spaces for black people. You know, that's just a modern, nice way of saying segregation. Black people should have their own dorms at college campuses, and black people should have their own classes with only other black people, and no white people should be allowed. And see, some people, white people are getting upset over all of this, but see, I look at it completely different. I see this for what it is. It's just Jim Crow laws with a smile, courtesy of libloons and the Democratic Party, because they're the true racists. The reason they want to give you reparations has nothing to do with wanting to, quote, make up for slavery. Here's the bottom line, especially in places like California that are considering giving reparations. California, a state that's already bankrupt, can't even keep their own power grid on. California, that was never even a slave state to begin with, they're not really wanting to give you reparations out of some sense of injustice. They're buying you. Like people used to be bought and sold on a slave block. They're buying you. They're buying your vote. They're buying your loyalty. The reason Democrats come around every 4 years into minority neighborhoods and campaign and promise and try to get you mad at white people and try to get you mad at Republicans and conservatives. They've done nothing for you but keep you in squalor and in public housing. They have kept you in places that are absolutely loathsome and unsafe. They don't even want to properly make sure that you have in any way an ability to stand up on your own and make it, because in their mind, you are the undeveloped race. You can't do it. Therefore, we'll just give you welfare and free phones and free stuff, and you just shut up and you vote for us every 4 years like we tell you to vote, and we'll give you reparations. That's the Democratic Party. And black people en masse have had enough. Not to mention, and I have said this for years, and to hear this come from now one of the BLM leaders, I've said for years, if conservatives would really learn how to engage and talk to black people on an individual basis, we have so much more in common with them than we realize. And we have so much more in common, they have so much more in common with us than they realize. Conservatives are what? Basically what we call freedom-loving, traditional Americans. Mom, dad, husband, wife, kids, family, God, faith, respect. Do you know those things are still huge in the black community as well? They believe in God. They believe in family. And like everybody else, they want to just live in decent neighborhoods. They don't want their kids being shot at. They don't want their kids being harassed by thugs on street corners. They don't want their kids having drugs shoved in their face. And they're beginning to realize who it is that has perpetuated this and kept them in this state. And now They've had enough. Now I know what you're thinking. Well, the Democrats are going to have to do something to get the black vote back. But what? Larry Elder, I think, has correctly pointed out that the Democrats are stuck with Joe Biden, whether they want to be or not. First of all, he's the talking piece of Barackmas Obamamus. That's number one. Number two, if they throw Biden over to bring in Newsom, that will totally lose them the black vote because Camilla thinks she's a Hottie Harris. That is not going to fly with black male voters. Black female voters will line up for Kamala, but not black male voters. So Ted Cruz is spouting the theory that, and he's right, you can't throw Biden over for another white guy like Newsom. So what they'd have to do is bring in Michelle Obama. And I know that immediately puts conservatives and neocons and rhinos into panic mode. Oh, Donald Trump can't beat Michelle. He wouldn't need to. The black community will not vote for Michelle Obama. I know you're shocked to hear me say that. It's that part where you get mad, but I want you to start thinking. Because if you talk to black people who are very disgruntled about what the government has not done for them, they constantly bring up Barack Obama, that he had 8 years and did virtually nothing for the black community. And many of them are saying Donald Trump did far more in 4 years than Barack Obama ever did in 8 years. In fact, it was President Trump who repealed and made it possible for literally hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of incarcerated black males to get early release from prison who were all victims of the Joe Biden crime bill, which disproportionately arrested and convicted far more blacks than anyone else. Donald Trump rolled all that back. So when Joe Biden says, if you don't vote for me, you ain't black, which, by the way, that offended black America.
Listen, you got to come see us when you come to New York, VP Biden.
I will.
It's a long way until November. We got more questions.
You got more questions, but I tell you, if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, then you ain't black.
What you all know, but most people don't know, unlike the African American community, with notable exceptions, the Latino community is an incredibly diverse community with incredibly different attitudes about different things.
Especially when he went on to say, when asked about why he didn't say that about Hispanic voters, and he said, well, Hispanic voters are a much more diverse group. In other words, insinuating all black people do the same things. Boy, isn't that stereotypical. We should have heard some minstrel music in the background, and he should have had a bucket of Kentucky Fried Chicken sitting there and a slice of watermelon when he said that little caveat. See, Joe Biden is, to his core, a racist. The Democrats are racist. The things that they give away to black Americans for one reason and one reason only, to buy them like they are property. And you will vote the way we tell you. And by the way, you're too stupid to achieve any of this on your own anyway. You need us. Kim Iverson sitting down with a founding member of BLM. You need to watch this in its entirety.
Okay, let's start off with you, BLM leader, and you're now endorsing Donald Trump, saying he's the best candidate we have. Why do you think he is the best candidate that we have?
Because everybody else sucks.
So is he just the best of a bad group? I mean, is he not that great either, but he's just like better than the rest?
Well, I like Trump, personally. And I think right now who we have sitting in the Oval Office is just a deep disappointment. I deeply have disdain for him, and I really dislike the vice president as well.
What is it that why do you not like them versus like Donald Trump? I would imagine you're alone in this. Do you feel alone in this viewpoint in the world that you're in, being in the BLM movement?
No, I feel like the tide is starting to turn. I feel like
Really?
a lot of Black people are starting to pivot off of that Democratic plantation for so long. We've been slaves to that party. Actually, we've been mental slaves, afraid to get off of that plantation because, uh, you know, we've been used and abused for so long at that party. They don't value our vote. Their policies are basically racist policies, and I believe it's a racist party that strikes at the heart of the Black family and the nuclear family in general. And I believe Donald Trump he's the opposite. He's going to tell you how it is. He's going to give it to you straight. He's not going to be a hypocrite and stab you in the back like the Democratic Party loves to do.
There's definitely, I mean, that has kind of been one of the big complaints, I think, in some of the Black community. We're starting to see that tide shift, as you mentioned, where people are starting to say, well, what have you done for me? Right? Like, you keep saying, we have to vote for you. We have to vote for you. It's an existential crisis if we don't vote Democrat. But then what? Then what do we get? You just kind of use that. And in fact, I mean, even this coming election, Joe Biden, I mean, the very first primary that the Democrats plan to have is in South Carolina. They're going to do it there because that's the one he won. And they thought, well, Joe Biden does well with the Black vote. Why do you think he does better with the Black vote? I mean, this is where it gets kind of, why do you think that? Why do you think he does well compared to, like, Bernie Sanders didn't do as well in that part of the country compared to Joe Biden?
Well, I think the reason why Joe Biden does better is the lesser of two evils. When you look at someone like a Joe Biden, or you look at someone like a Bernie Sanders, Joe Biden, he's very good at playing the role. He's very good at being a politician. And I forget the gentleman from South Carolina that endorsed him, that turned his whole fate around. And that was the beginning. And so,
was it Clyburn? Is that who it was? Yeah.
Yep. Right. And so, we looked at him and we looked at everyone else in the field, and we decided, okay, well, he sat under Obama. He plays ball, and that's our, that's our principles and that's our values. That's what we do. We go to the lesser of two evils, and we felt like, okay, well, it was either that. And I believe at that time, we didn't know too much about Trump, but, we've learned a lot more about him since 2020 and, and since 2016. And when you look at the overall body of work, Trump has done more for the Black community than any president I can think of in my lifetime. And, Biden has done nothing.
Like, what exactly did Trump do?
Well, he gave millions and millions of dollars to HBCUs. I forget the exact amount, where before we'd had to come back every year to get renewed. Right. He extended it for every 10 years. He's like, why you have to keep coming back to get money? And then he did the first step where he allowed, it was a big hit on recidivism, where Black people who were getting arrested would come out and they'd have the ability to not only come out early, but be able to get involved into the economics of the country and, the platinum plan. And there's a lot of things, that he did that goes under the radar. And you look at the rappers, they all support him, and it's the best kept. Yeah, you look at people like Waka Flame just came on the internet. You got Lil Wayne, you got Kodak Black, you got Ice Cube, you got Kanye. I mean, like, it's no big secret anymore. Like, right. The media wants to put on the raps.
Yeah. Whereas Democrats, you don't feel like they've done anything for you or your community.
No, I believe they've hurt our community.
Hurt the community. Yeah. Why do you think they're even so? Yeah, that's worse than doing nothing. Why do you think? Right. Like, in what ways?
Well, the Democrats introduced abortion. Democrats are for these, different, unnatural, policies that go against laws of nature, go against laws of procreation. And, I'm not here to judge anybody or to hate on anybody. I'm just telling you what's beneficial and what's not for my community. And the Democratic Party is not. They go against, capitalist ideas. We want to create wealth. We want to gain wealth, leave something for our children. We have faith. We believe in God. We love God, very deeply faith in our community. And, family oriented principles of education, making money, all of these things.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not Marxist.
So, when you tell people in your community and in the Black Lives Matter movement that you have now endorsed Trump, that he's your guy, what kind of reaction do you get?
You can guess.
I mean, I mean, are most of them really upset and say, "How dare you?" Or some of them like, "Hey, actually, I'm kind of considering it too."
Most of them are not, because like I said, the media and the government, and they do a great job of keeping us divided, and
Yeah.
that's my main talking point. That's my main goal and objective, is to overcome the narrative that the media creates by creating my own narrative. And I find that people are just as desperate as I am to improve race relations, to bring the races together. They just don't know how. And it's
Yeah.
because the media, it goes against everything the media stands for. Their narrative, their bottom line is based and thrives on us being at each other's throats, us being at odds. If we don't do that, what do they have? Nothing.
Boom. And there you have it.